good? You're tuned in to the latest edition of the Marck and Mike Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike
and Mark.
What's good? Let's jump right into things. Boss, we got Valentine's Day coming up.
Yeah.
What you got planned for the missus, man?
Well, the missus is going to be in Trinidad. She's going to do the carnival thing. So I'm going to institute what I used to normally do on Valentine's Day. Back when I was single, Mark, I used to take my mom and my grandma out.
Oh, so, yeah.
You remember
those days? Yeah,
man.
Yeah, man. That was so gentlemanly. I used to tell people that all the time. They'd be like, "Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's so cool."
But you know the truth there. What happens is Valentine's Day is usually the time where if you're involved with or spending time dating, talking to multiple women, you'd have to make the decision.
That's real.
And at some point, I would decide who would be the most important woman in your life at the time.
And you know what? They can never say, "Oh, well, why didn't you take me out over your mother and your grandmother?"
Cannot.
They can't play you, man. They can never come to you with that.
The most important women in my life, so that's who I spent time with. I would sit there, take them to Cheesecake Factory or Grand Lux, and then take them gamble. I'd give them both a couple of dollars. They go, they flip the money, and that's it. That. You know what I'm saying? Nah, man, my mom has a mean blackjack hand. I don't know. So, and they would always win. That's the craziest part. They would always win. So that was the plan for Valentine's Day. Nowadays, I usually do something simple with the wife.
Word.
But now, like I said, she's going to go turn up at Carnival without me.
Oh, boo.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, boo her. Boo. All the cameras, boo. But nah. So I'm probably going to sit back and relax. So what about you, Mr. Thomas?
Look, man, you got to fly under the radar. Like you said, you don't want to create no issues. If you carry one young lady out, she's going to get frustrated or upset at you, that why it wasn't her or, why it was somebody else. So, you just, pretend like you're busy. You just kind of, put other things on tap, I mean, look, February 14th falls on a Wednesday.
Huh?
The next day is the release of Black Panther, So as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably laying low, preparing myself mentally for what I'm about to experience, I mean, look, if any woman dare comes in between me and my preparation for Black Panther on opening night, I mean, that is obviously not the woman for me, Mark. I'm sorry.
Is that what you're going to do? You're going to flip it on them?
Got to flip it on them. You got to make it feel mad guilty about it.
It's a Wednesday. I work hard.
I'm a busy man. I'm a working man,
So, but what you going to do when they say, all right, we'll do it Friday or Saturday? And then what, sir?
Well, I mean, it's still opening weekend for Black Panther in theory, and she should understand, that, I might want to see it a second or a third or a fourth time. And how dare she come in between me and Black excellence?
Okay. All right.
Hashtag Black excellence. Yes.
But what about the flowers? You sending any flowers?
It's very interesting, back in the day when I was young and dumb, you would go online and you'd go to like Pro Flowers and go to FTD and all these other websites.
You put in the promotion.
Yeah, you put in the promo code.
Yeah.
But you're still spending $15, $20, $30 per bouquet, and it's like, when you're in a relationship, that's fine. You can even do an edible arrangements if you're feeling real fancy, you know what I mean? But I realized, look, man, you just go right down to Hialeah on 67th Ave off the 826. Man, look, man, she is selling all color bouquet of roses for like $5 each.
What you mean? Off of Ives there in 95, right before you go into Aventura, there's that one dude on that cut right there that be selling the $5 flowers. I think, for about $20, he'll give you about 20 of them. Like, look, you keep it fresh.
Wait, he has different colors though?
Different colors. Straight clean into crisp. Oh, man.
That's what's up, man. Look, those are like the joys and perks of living in South Florida. You don't really get that anywhere else, man.
Nah.
Only here you can get a bouquet. You can get 2, 3, 4 dozen roses for like less than $30. Look, man, that's a blessing. That's what that is.
Absolutely.
Hashtag blessings.
Blessings,
yes, indeed. So I mean, but Valentine's Day is always a very interesting holiday, and it's always a holiday of much contention. For obvious reasons, for some people it signifies taking it to the next level in your relationship. For some people it signifies just getting into a relationship, trying to find somebody that's special for you. And yeah, once you, like, I guess, tear down all the politicking and all the, back and forth that comes with Valentine's Day, I don't know. I've always found it to be a pretty awesome holiday, whether I was involved in a relationship or not. It's always, it's always a very, I don't know. I find it to be, especially in the black community, you get to see a lot of black love. You get to see a lot of, a lot of happy couples doing their thing. I mean, granted, you have a lot of angry side pieces. But
well, they got side piece day the next day.
That's true. Side piece day is the next day. That is true. Well, no. Side piece day and Black Panther Day can't be on the same day. So the side piece day gonna have to go off till like Monday. What's that? The 18th? Oh, she's gonna be mad. She gonna be mad. She gonna be angry. Ooh. Side piece day is coming late this year.
Oh man,
she gonna be upset. She might threaten to blow up his spot.
Oh, that's true. Well, you better get the $30 bouquets delivered. I'm just saying.
Yeah, at that point, you might have to, right? Yeah. I mean, you're just gonna have to take that one in stride, I suppose.
No, but all jokes inside. I mean, I have a little bit different take on Valentine's Day. I treat it much more like, I do think it's quite commercialized. I think it's nice to have that nice evening where you can go out and celebrate love and deal with love, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I feel like it's a lot of hype for not. And then there's a lot of pressure behind Valentine's Day because, some extent you might have messed around and met someone around the end of December, early January time. And in February, it's kind of like, it's just set, like, what are we going to do here? What's about to happen?
It's still
here?
early, it's
still early.
You don't want to do too much too soon.
No, exactly. What you mean, and what you keep in mind is there's the main places that are going to be filled during Valentine's Day.
Word.
You got the Cheesecake Factory, the Grand Luxes, for the earlier college Marck, the TGI Friday. You're going to get the Top Golf is going to be filled when we go here. All the cigar bar. Oh, it's going to be stacked. It's going to be stacked.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? The people want to have fun to do Dave and Buster's. So it goes to the other point. Mm-hmm. Let's say if you're actively dating and then you decide to say, I'm going to take a person out on this. And I mean actively dating, no one's exclusive per se. There's no, connect, there's no exclusivity, but you're out here dating. How is that going to look when you go out there in public with everybody else? What's that going to be like?
Ain't that the truth, man?
So I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on relationships. If you're married, you're in an established relationship, even then I'd even argue, because it's like, I'm not going to go as far as to say Valentine's Day is every day, but it's like, come on, you don't want to deal with the hassle.
But it can be any day.
It can be any day. But more importantly, me and my wife are just like, do we want to go through the crowds? Yeah. Do we want to wait? Yeah. We feel like busy restaurants tend not to give out the best food.
I was just about to say that, man. The one thing I hate the most about Valentine's Day are those damn pre-fee menus, man.
Oh, yeah.
None of the good stuff that I really like are on the menu. Look, I'm trying to get the bread pudding in there like, nah, all we got is cheesecake. I don't want no damn cheesecake. I have cheesecake any damn day of the week.
I only do pre-fee. I only do that pre-made menu during Miami Spice. That's it. It's the only way I'm going to accept somebody.
Exactly.
When I went to Texas Day Brazil and I'm not spending $50 a person and they say, yo, for $15 we're going to throw you a little something. I'll trust that. But other than that, no, you don't even go pre-fit. So, that being said, Valentine's Day is cool. Obviously, I respect it as a holiday, but me and the wife, you really don't do it do that often anyways.
No, and that's what's up. And at the end of the day, man, a healthy relationship can strike that balance between going out and having a good time, whether it be once a month or, whenever their schedules allow, as opposed to just waiting for it on Valentine's Day. So that's perfectly fine, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, definitely, on to our next topic, and a topic that has drawn the ear of many people over the last several months.
Yeah, and business and tech news.
Indeed. Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, remember that?
It all started with the Bitcoin. Yeah. And, it reached high. It reached... It was damn near $20,000.
Almost $20,000.
Yeah, almost got there, and as of today, it is now dipped below $9,000.
Yeah.
What say you about Bitcoin, Mr. Joseph?
Here's what I would say. I'd even go back to when Bitcoin originally came out, because Bitcoin was a thing that you kind of heard of. You didn't know what it was, so you said, you know what, I'm not going to touch it. And you didn't decide to touch it until you found out that people who got Bitcoin had it at $10,000 each, and everybody was just like, "Oh snap! I got to get mine."
Absolutely.
Not realizing they didn't know what Bitcoin was, how it was going on. Mm-hmm. And personally, I'm not gonna lie, I'm petty. I've kept many of screenshots of everybody who kept talking about the hype of Bitcoin. So when they try to come back, I'm gonna remind them of the energy that they had and ask them to have that same energy. Absolutely. When they talk about the drop of Bitcoin. Now that being said, I'm not gonna lie, I jumped in it. I was blessed. I made me a little bit of money moving along a bit, and I jumped out. But to be very clear, people are treating cryptocurrency like it was an investment. I always disagreed. I always considered it a form of gambling. No different than my mama and grandma at the blackjack table pulling the slots
on Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. So, and it's interesting because people try to legitimize it as investment, but it's like, to be honest, people heard about the mining and that there's a limited amount, but I didn't understand it. When people explained it to me, it was still blank stare. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that being said, I think it was a fun ride. It was interesting. If you're able to make your money, big ups to you. Hopefully you didn't lose too much money, but it is what it is.
Nah, it's very interesting, man. As I first started to learn and understand what Bitcoin was and what it meant for completing transactions, in the 21st century, I really understood it. I really, I guess, absorbed it as a technological advance. Really, if you really think about it, it's it's finite. There's a limited amount. What is it? 21 million, I believe it is. I believe there's 21 million Bitcoin. I think there's no more than
21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's 21 million Bitcoin. Yeah. So there's there was a finite amount, and you were literally hedging your bet on how a technology is going to be used in the market moving forward. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me, I'll never forget this, and I'm pretty sure you remember this, but when DVDs were popping, right? Oh. And you remember, we eventually went from DVDs to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Do you remember what was in between the DVD and Blu-ray?
That Microsoft HD format thing?
Oh man, there was
HD
the
video.
There was the Ultra DVD, right?
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be just at a higher resolution, but it wasn't quite 1080p. And I'll never forget it because that had an extremely higher price point than the DVD. It was right on the heels of Blu-ray. However, it never really surmounted to it because Blu-ray just overtook the market.
Yeah.
And once Blu-ray took over that market share, and Blu-ray was then getting in bed with different production studios like Sony and Paramount and Universal, and they were saying, hey, if you're going to record these movies or if you're going to record your programming, then we want this to be exclusive Blu-ray content. So then all of a sudden the UHD was completely out of the picture. Yeah. And all of a sudden, 2 or 3 years into it, we got people sitting at home right now with these UHDs and they can't watch it on a damn thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's crazy. And I think that's kind of where Bitcoin is slowly going. You got the rise of Ethereum. You got the rise of Ripple, which I've actually invested in both of those lately. And they're much more promising technology-wise than Bitcoin. However, Bitcoin is still the leader in the house because, they were so far ahead of the game when they were created. So, Bitcoin is still worth something. So there still might be an investment there. I mean, at the end of the day, how many times have people opted for the lesser of two technologies? I always go back to, was this 1995, I think it was, or 94? The Atari Jaguar.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Jaguar?
I remember.
The Jaguar went head to head with the Sony Saturn and with the Sega Saturn and the Sony PlayStation, and it was a better device than both. It was 60-bit compared to 32-bit. Oh my God,
60-bit.
60-bit. I know, right? I know, right? It was so long ago.
Yeah, like literally, this sentence is more than 60 bytes on when we do editing.
Right?
I mean,
but it was crazy, and the market rejected the Atari Jaguar, and Atari went bankrupt shortly thereafter. And I think, just because it was a superior device technologically speaking, the market just wasn't ready for it. And they were perfectly fine with their 32-bit graphics. They were perfectly fine playing Crash Bandicoot, on the PlayStation, or Final Fantasy, what was it, 7? Final Fantasy 7.
Don't do that. Final Fantasy, that was fire. That was my thing.
No, you already know, man. It was hot. You couldn't touch it, man.
I mean, you can't look at it now. It's disgusting. But back then, it was hard to watch. So real.
Hurts my eyes.
Now it's like polygons and shapes and stuff like that. Now, I can't.
But I kind of feel the same way about Bitcoin as it stands right now, man. I feel like, I mean, if it goes any lower, and I mean, it might take its lumps here or there, but it seems like it's slowly but surely going to stabilize around that 7,000 to 9,000 mark, which still makes it very highly valuable. Also because it's finite, and it's not as many units as Ripple. Ripple's in hundreds of millions, almost billions of units. Ethereum's also higher than that, so because of that, and also because it has that added dimension of people making money in it when it comes to mining and doing all those things. That keeps it alive as well because they also have a vested interest in seeing it do well. And because of that, they're going to want to push that as a medium, especially when it comes to a rate of exchange and making money. I think that's why Bitcoin still has some staying power. That's just one man's opinion. Do not take this as financial advice, because you will go broke listening to me. I'm just letting you know. But yeah, and with me and my 0.21 Bitcoin that I got from Matthew at law school. Matthew, if you're watching this,
shout out to Matthew.
Thank you.
Shout out to Matthew. No, man, Matthew's like, he's throwing papers now.
I appreciate you, brother. No, you're not coming to. Well, we're not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna tell your business, Matthew. But I appreciate you. No,
Matthew probably somewhere on a yacht. Mojitos driving to his private island. I don't know how much Bitcoin that man has.
If Matthew could pay me 0.21 Bitcoin for my law school books, then I'm pretty sure Matthew got a lot more Bitcoin where that came from. Man, I'm kind of mad. I should have pressed him for 0.5.
Nah, there you go. I know. You really should have, man. You really should have.
Here I am wanting cash. Oh man, I feel horrible. But but thanks a lot, Matthew. I appreciate you because you hooked me up and you put me on the Bitcoin. Far before I was ever ready to really get on it, man. But I think especially as an investor, you definitely want to diversify your portfolio, whatever it is. Cryptocurrency is just simply another way, and I think that it's important to at least understand the machinations through which Bitcoin, Ripple, Ethereum. There's so many of them now. I mean, oh my goodness, what is it now? Maybe about 20 or 30, like legitimate cryptocurrencies being traded right now. I use personally Mycelium. I don't know. I'm not sure who you use, but I use Mycelium as my crypto wallet. I use that through the Google Play Store. But I definitely feel like, why not? I mean, especially if you're if you're an investor, you don't have to be super experienced. You could definitely be a novice and kind of just get the underpinnings and get the underworkings of how these things work and try and definitely put some money into them. Why not, man? Why not?
I mean, I'd put a couple of dollars, but I'm going to still stand by my point that I consider it no different than gambling. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, you go ahead and put you can put your bets on an over under of like how much LeBron's going to score or not on some online gambling. And to me, I feel like I have a better chance of knowing what's going to happen there with cryptocurrency. I mean, when I first heard about it, I just thought it was another way to move work. I'm just saying, people, you sell cocaine, you weed or whatever, you do it through big
black market,
market stuff is not technically currency, so it's not legally acknowledgeable. I will note this: it's like the more money you make in Bitcoin, things like that, especially now that the government's starting to acknowledge it as currency and income, you're gonna have to pay taxes.
On it, yep.
So don't forget the tax man's always gonna want their cut. But you know what? I might, we definitely might have to follow up with that because me, I was like, look, I see a way to flip. You know how I was from back then.
You already know,
There's
man.
A way to flip some money. I'm gonna flip some money. I'm gonna get out.
That's it, man. Make what you can off of it, and then on to the next hustle, man.
Yeah, man,
that's real. That's real. But that's gonna be a very interesting segue into our next topic, and we're gonna take a short break. But when we come back, we're going to discuss our main topic for today's show, which is the value of HBCUs in today's America. That's right. We're going to discuss historical black colleges and universities. So stay tuned. All right, now on to our main topic here on the M&M Podcast, the value of HBCUs in today's America.
Where do historically black colleges and universities stand?
Now, this is a topic I find that's become more and more near and dear to my heart as time has gone on. My opinion personally is vastly changed over the last, I would say maybe decade. Going through my own academic matriculation and learning and understanding and definitely seeing how the system kind of superimposes itself onto black institutions. So I've definitely kind of done my own personal 180 on this particular subject matter. But the purpose of HBCUs obviously goes back, oh my goodness, we're talking now 130, 140 years now. And the establishment of these historical black colleges as a means of providing higher education to obviously the African American community when they were largely rejected by predominant white institutions, who obviously, one, for the color of their skin, would reject them, financially speaking, and because of socioeconomic issue as well, that they simply couldn't afford to get into the higher institution, institutions of higher learning. And that was really the necessity. That was the crutch for why the HBCUs began to be established, especially throughout the southern United States in the mid to late 1800s and, of course, into the 1900s as well. I think it's a very loaded topic. It's a very interesting debate to have, especially as most of our listeners, or many of our listeners, I should say, are attendees or alumni of HBCUs. So I promise you, we don't mean to step on any toes here when we discuss this topic. But like anything else, I do believe that we can discuss this topic with thoughtfulness and with a level of candor and respect that it so truly deserves. What say you, Mr. Joseph?
When we decided on this topic, I did a bit of research on it, and obviously I kind of had my opinion and idea towards HBCUs, and I feel like, you can imply why they exist, as with many other things that are related to assist or kind of create the promotion of the black person. That the reason why they had they created this was to allow essentially black African Americans, black people, the opportunity to go to college. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because obviously we're talking about it in today. Aside from the fact that there are well over 100 HBCUs in the United States, and that the growing number of black people going to college is steadily increasing over the years. And the legitimate question is like, is it even necessary? Should we have it? We talk about one point where there wasn't any universities or colleges allowing black people in or allowing black people to attend. Now that that's more so happening now, do we still need it? And I thought about that because originally it'd be very easy to say no, because there was once a problem that's no longer there. Obviously, I didn't go to an HBCU. You didn't go to an HBCU.
Actually, for law school, the University of the District of Columbia, David Clark School of Law.
That's an HBCU?
It's an HBCU, yes it is.
No, see, you slid this on me. This is why you wanted to talk about this. I'm just like,
not at all, man.
No. I remember. I was like, how are we gonna talk about it? We ain't going to HBCU. Like, yeah. Okay. He didn't jump up under me like, HBCU, gang. Like, yo.
Not at all, man. But what's funny? I think that's a very interesting take though that you offer in terms of how we discuss HBCUs, because at the end of the day, an HBCU, just because it's historically black, still needs to be respected as an institution of higher learning.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's very much it's so funny. Like look, I'm a huge fan. One of my favorite shows of all time is A Different World, and I know you out there in YouTube land or in Facebook land or in SoundCloud land or in
social
media land all together. I know that you too thoroughly enjoyed the happenings of Hillman, which was of course largely inspired and modeled after Howard University.
I guess.
And you were never a fan of A Different World?
I wasn't a a different world person.
I love a different world.
I was
man.
I ain't gonna lie. It wasn't me, and I could just justify it. You know,
oh, man.
I could be like, yo, Cosby did it. We don't know what he was doing back there. You know, I
stop,
could throw
man,
it in there and justify it and be like, I was woke before woke happened. I was Me Too before Me Too happened. But that was never my thing.
Hey, look, man, look. I mean, especially if you were one of the earlier watchers of a different world, there was really only one real reason to watch it. Lisa Bonet. Oh my goodness. Oh,
man, that Jason. All right, Jason Momoa gonna come at you. Bro.
Oh, hey,
look, come at you. You gonna put them Hawaiian hands on me?
I'll challenge the leader of the Dothraki to a battle. Look, okay, I'll go one on one.
You gonna go on Aquaman?
I'll go one on one with Aquaman.
Yo,
and I let him know that he wasn't impressive either as
Shots
Aquaman.
Fired. Shots fired.
I want to ask him, how did that movie do? How about that? God forbid he have a solo film. It will never be as good as Black Panther, but that's neither here nor there. That's right, Jason Momoa. I'm challenging you.
You calling out Jason Momoa, dude.
One on one.
Yo, I'm pretty sure this dude bitch is like 350, and you calling out Jason Momoa guy. He's like 6'3".
I know. Well, you gotta fight to prove
your
love.
I got this. Yo, he come at you come at me. That's it. I don't even know. I don't even care.
We got this, man. We gonna handle that. We gonna handle that. But nonetheless, man. But you know, watching a different world, and even when I was younger, I mean, I was watching that. I mean, A Different World, when it ended in what was that, 93 or 94, I believe it was. By the time that ended, I mean, we were 7, 8 years old. So
you're more responsible than me. I was watching Power Rangers, bro. Like, yo.
I was watching that too. But by the time it really registered to me, the show's topics and understanding the magnitude of the show, as it stands, it wasn't until years later that A Different World was really like registering, to me as a black viewer of television. I mean, that never happened until it hit syndication years after. So that was when I was, 14, 15, 16, 8, 9, 10 years after the show had already ended, So that's when it really kind of struck me, oh, wow, this show dealt with some real legit issues, that are now largely turned into memes, and let's be real, and, we're always told how, the symbol of black love is always going to be Whitley and Dwayne, and that's kind of, but it's because, I mean, look, it's timeless. And the reason why it's timeless is I feel it tackled issues in a way that was specific and engaging to Black America. And I think that's why HBCUs, coming back to our main point, have I want to say not just lasted this long, but that's why I think they remain relevant in today's society. Like I said, I've done a complete 180 on this before. I mean, and this, man. Like, when we first started undergrad, I attended, PWIs and predominantly white institutions, and
I just learned that today, by the way. So, like, this is Mr. Woke guy over here.
Not even, man.
With the DC, came back. I'm learning all these new words, like microaggressions and.
But these are real things, man. And those are things that are incubated more or less when you go to PWIs, and these are things that become mainstays in these institutions of higher learning that are, geared towards, I mean, let's just be real, the white students. I mean, look, I spent my undergraduate work and my master's work at, PWIs. And while I thoroughly enjoyed my collegiate experience, I was very cognizant of the fact that, only a small portion of the student body looked like me. And not only that, but there's also that cultural barrier that you face when you go to the PWIs. And that's not to say that, I'm not trying to come for any black people here that went to PWIs, because once again, I attended one as well. But, there's a level of dissonance that takes place when you're fully enthralled in the PWI experience that I feel keeps you separate and apart from the HBCU experience.
You mean like, are you talking about like the movie Higher Learning?
I mean, higher learning.
They ain't go that left, right?
Well, I mean, ain't that? I hope not. We went to school in South Florida. I hope it didn't get that bad. That movie didn't end so well.
I'll say this because I went to Florida International University. FIU Golden Path is what up. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, because for those who know from South Florida, FIU had two main campuses. There was the North Campus, the Biscayne Bay Campus, and there was the South Campus, the University Park Campus. I will say this much. I went to the North Campus. I definitely, like I said, I didn't go to HBCU, but it definitely felt like it because the majority of people at the North Campus were black, of island descent, etc. And for the most part, going from high school in an all-black school, North Miami Pioneers, it was an interesting transition. And you make a good you make a good point that I can personally, understand, because it was around junior year. I was trying to only go to school 2 days out the week. And to do that, I had to take all my classes on South Campus. And to get there, for those who know, you have to take the Panther shuttle, the bus, from North Campus to South Campus. The first day I decided to do that, I legit had culture shock. The first time. I'd never been actually around that many non-black people. And that's just from a product. Little Haiti, North Miami, elementary, middle school, high school, just wasn't what I was around. And the first time it happened, and I'm not going to say I panicked, but I definitely did not know how to operate. It was just a completely different ball game. It was a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
And I eventually stayed and took my classes there, and I went to law school there, FIU Law, shout out. So, I eventually obviously got over it, but I will make this other point. So, I got that experience junior year of college. Devil's advocate, wouldn't going to an HBCU for your collegiate career create the same situation, given that the majority of the population in the United States, depending on your area, is in fact non-black or minority? How do you think HBCUs, or do HBCUs in your experience assist with that type of situation in terms of that transition or that feeling of comfort kind of getting ripped from you like it did? I felt like it did when I was in junior year of college.
I've heard this a lot, and I think that on the surface, face value, one would say that someone who has been incubated in their academic history and going to predominantly black elementary and secondary schooling, and then going to a predominantly black university or college, one would say that, when they got out into the real world, if you will, it becomes a bit of a culture shock. But, I kind of find that to be vastly overstated. And I tell you why. Because, though our socializing agents may be different, let's flip that question around. If you went to Texas A&M, if you went to the University of Florida, if you went to Notre Dame, if you went to any school, the University of Georgia in Athens, the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, the University of South Carolina.
Am I playing football in these schools? Because I feel like
it feels like
I'm someone's running back if I'm at any of these schools. That's what I'm saying.
But it's funny you say that, because the African American student population at those universities are largely driven there by their athletic programs. So we strip that away, and what you have is a predominantly white institution that is anywhere between 88 and 94% white. Are we saying that a white man or a white woman that goes to a predominantly white institution suffers from a severe culture shock when they're around a person of color?
Yeah. Yes, that's literally what happens. Like, well, you know what? Let me not say that. I can imagine that happening. I've seen that occur, especially being in somewhere in the legal profession. I've seen a lot of times where I go to minority black volunteer bar events, and then you have the lesser numbers, because and there is an inclusionist mentality amongst the organizations where even though if it's a black bar association, you have white attorneys and attorneys of other races come and join the events, and vice versa. So it's not it's not something of a negative when it happens. In fact, it's always appreciated. But when they come in there, you can notice there's a difference in kind of how they operate. And there's this, I don't know what to do here. I kind of know how to feel there. And of course, at least the organizations that I'm a part of, we make the efforts to kind of be inclusionary and kind of be involved. And we also have the same, we have one thing unified, which is we're all lawyers. So we can at least mend and function on that. So I can imagine that the opposite, the other way around, would be problematic.
But would you consider the recourse to be anything more than minimal for the white person trying to establish themselves, or not even establish themselves, but, well, you can say potentially establish themselves, but enthrall themselves in a community or an engagement or an area that's black, would you consider that to be a traumatic experience for that white person?
No. And here's why I can see that. Because they're not the minority as a whole, though. And so I feel like, you know, and I understand. Typically, it would be easy to say yes, but then you have that nuance, right? At the end of the day, the majority population around them, they can always get out of that and it's something greater. Now, if they had to operate in an area that is predominantly black, or an area, or like just anywhere that's predominantly black, then maybe it might be much more difficult. But in the grand scheme, like, that's just for a minimal set of time. But once they come out, there's no problem. Same thing in college. College is just only 4 years.
Absolutely.
Then you have the rest of your career in your profession.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you start trying to go into fields that are majority non-black,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the legal profession is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 3%
Absolutely.
of attorneys are black.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I was glad I eventually knew how to do was be able to operate amongst non-black people,
Mm-hmm.
in that, you know, in law school, going through the process, going through FIU, I mean, it was mixed. I mean, FIU prides themselves on the diversity because you have black and Hispanic as
Absolutely.
well as white people. But I like the feeder option that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in very small circumstances where people, when they transition, they have that level of uncomfort, and it does affect them when they're trying to go for jobs, when they have to argue, you know, when their comfort in court or in these situations. So I mean, I do think over time you can get over and get used to it. But I guess that's the concern that I originally felt with HBCUs. And I mean, obviously you've done well for it, because now, as I just found out, you went to an HBCU, and I've seen you do quite well amongst multiple groups. So I mean, I guess in essence, I think it's more of a paranoia versus an actual, you know, issue.
I mean, I think just watching it play out, you know, more so for peers, colleagues, and classmates of mine, more so than my own personal experience, because at the end of the day, I did go to, you know, PWIs for my undergraduate tenure, and for my graduate school track. So with that being said, you know, I do feel as if it's vastly overstated the inability of black people to function without an experience that doesn't thrust white people into it. At the end of the day, black people are always going to be engaged with white people at some point. Like you said, they are the dominant, aren't they? I mean, they are. I mean, outside of certain communities, obviously, certain areas. If you live in, I don't know, if you live in Liberty City.
Well, you say that now,
then
and
it's like,
well, that's a whole different conversation. Now we got to talk about Wynwood.
But
yes,
but you do ultimately interact and engage with white people, albeit maybe not in the professional sense. You do. I guess you do live among them, if you will. Yeah. With that being said, though, I do feel as if when it comes to quote unquote socializing agents, and, you know, a certain level of decorum, if you will, or a certain level of communication, of engagement that has to take place among, you know, black people who attended HBCUs, you know, versus or with white people that didn't attend HBCUs, white people that are just out there in the real world, whether it be at your job, whether it be in the financial aid office at your school, whether it be, you know, customer service, you know, when you're shopping in retail. Look, the socializing agents are more or less the same. You know, you always revert to your core basis of treating people with respect, candor, and understanding, and you hope that shines through. Listen, I've had plenty of conversations with my white friends at HBCUs, because I mean, look, my law school, you know, District of Columbia School of Law, you know, David Clark School of Law. I mean, while an HBCU, also prided itself on being diverse, and diverse largely looked like a school that was about, if I had to put a number on it, well, at least my class of 2016, about maybe 48% African American, 52%. Just a mix of everything else. And, you know, and in that experience, you know, we as the black students in an area, because I mean, for all those who don't know, the school is located on, you know, Connecticut Avenue, which is a very well-to-do neighborhood and area in the DC area. yeah, we still took it upon ourselves to involve, engage, interact, and most importantly, share our experience with our non-black colleagues and classmates and peers and neighbors and so on and so forth. And we were largely appreciated for it, because, we actually did more to denounce and defy stereotypes and different, like, black people are always this, or black people are always that. Oh, we think that they're angry and they're exclusionary and that they're this, that, and the other. When you find out, oh man, these are the coolest guys on the planet. Like, now we just want to hang around them all the time, right? and I find that's very interesting. I find that more or less what happens. Same thing with the work world, man. The same thing with the professionals that have left my graduate and my professional school education, that have gone on to do great things, whether it be Office of Public Defender, the state attorney, the AUSAs, of course, law firms, and becoming associates and whatnot, nonprofit organizations. They've been able to integrate themselves into these fields, into these offices that are, despite being surrounded largely by people that don't look like them. And they don't see it as frightening. They don't see it as challenging. They see it as, an opportunity to engage. And most importantly, they see it as an opportunity to thrive, in spite of the fact that the system, we can all define in our own minds and hearts what we think the system is. But, they find it as an opportunity to position themselves within the system, to then provide ways and means and opportunities for other young black scholars and other young black educators and other young black attorneys, or MPAs in my case, to come up and to kind of infiltrate those systems as well. And I know that's probably not the best word to use, infiltrate. People get nervous when you hear that word, but it's about making sure that the best and brightest and talented, not just of your community but in your culture, also have that opportunity too. And I think that's what it is. I think we tackle it with a sense of pride and not necessarily a sense of fear.
Okay. Well, I mean, and you make a good point about the infiltrating, as you mentioned it, into that. So, argumentatively, why would there not be more of a push to have that diversity and do that infiltration amongst the PWIs as much, as opposed to going to the HBCUs? And kind of, and another point, another question to that is, why wouldn't it be worth or advantageous to kind of get the same access? Because essentially, you have the HBCUs, you have the PWIs. I don't want to go into the separate but equal conversation, but why not be able to have access to the education that everybody else has, and to essentially go to why would it be beneficial, if you're having that conversation, why would it be beneficial to go to an HBCU versus making the attempt to go to the PWIs, whether it be, why would it be, why would it be better to do that?
Because the PWI's matriculation is not geared towards the black student. And literature, even court cases, right before he passed, Antonin Scalia actually made quite a stir in legal communities across black campuses by insinuating that it was important for black students to go to black schools to get black educations, because they're more or less slower than that of the PWIs, and they're best tailored for the black community because they're slower. Obviously, that's very insulting.
I'm waiting for you to come back from going back down on the roller coaster with that one.
So I don't want to get too much into that. I mean, the man is already gone, but it is quite frustrating. Right. However, with that being said, he is right about one thing, and it's not about HBCUs being slower. No, but the experience is largely tailored to the black student, and we can all talk about how severely undermanned or under-resourced or underfunded HBCUs are. And they are. I mean, that's indisputable at this point as far as I'm concerned. They most definitely are. But at the end of the day, what I really think it comes down to is that at an HBCU, You're getting experience in a matriculation that's tailored to the black experience. You might be learning largely the same education. You might be learning, you're going to learn the same, 1105 and 1106. You're going to learn the same college algebra. Yes, you're going to learn the same, you're going to learn the same lit. You're going to learn the same general chemistry, and you're going to learn the same communication courses in hermeneutics and all of those great things, and the same business courses and so on and so forth. Okay. However, with that being said, you're going to get it not with a slant or with a bias, but from the perspective and from the understanding of not even necessarily just a black professor, because there are plenty of white professors at HBCUs, but even that white professor or that ethnic professor, that non-black professor, still understands that when he teaches this course, he's teaching it from a perspective and from a place that is specific and tailored to the black experience. And it sometimes is very subtle. It doesn't mean that, when we do a math problem in college algebra, instead of using Brad, we'll use Daquan. Daquan had 8 apples.
Daquan had 5 kids. Had 5 hoes on the street, and 2 of them got picked up, got arrested. How many
hoes does he have left? Right? So solve for X. Right? No, that's not what we're saying, man. Nah. But at the end of the day, there's an understanding that when you're at this institution, and it's not just academically, it's socially also. There's a level of engagement that takes place that not only prepares you academically and educationally for the world ahead of you, but it prepares you socially for the world ahead of you. It's a great misnomer that just because we're around a bunch of black students, we're not learning about the white man. We're very much learning about white people.
Please fix the premise that.
Hey, look. There's nothing to preface there. You are learning. You're learning. You look. Like you said, you started off this conversation saying that you had just learned what PWIs are. Well, guess what? Every freshman at Howard knows what a PWI is, and that's important because a PWI was a term that was largely used only in master's matriculation and PhDs. Now we have freshmen who know what it is. Now you have high school juniors who understand and know what a PWI is, and because of it, they can look at it accordingly in a way that I could not when I was 15 or 16. I had no earthly clue what a PWI was back then. I barely knew what an HBCU was back then. An HBCU to me back then was, because we live in Florida, an HBCU to me back then was FAMU.
FAMU.
Or Flomo, because in the backyard. I barely knew Bethune, man.
No. You ain't gonna do that.
With all due respect to Bethune, I'm just saying, you weren't fam.
No. Anyway. Bump that. Shout out to Bethune, because where did Luke used to throw his parties at?
That's true.
Daytona. Don't you dare be from Miami. I follow Uncle Luke.
That's true.
Uncle Luke's my guy. Shout out to Kristen. I went to school with his wife. You will not sit here and disrespect Luke right here in his parties, in his freaknik parties in Daytona.
No, but look, I ain't talking about Daytona. I'm talking about specifically Bethune-Cookman College. Look, listen, let me tell you something. Look, BCC, I'm not going to get into BCC. We're talking about HBCUs in general. Yeah. But more or less.
BCU, by the way.
BCU, yeah. So is Flomo. Flomo's also now at FMU. Yeah.
Yes, FMU.
And once again, I think that also speaks to the evolution of these institutions, that they're no longer just, what was a University 1 and University 2 schools, or just, colleges that just are about academics. Now you have your research, and now you have, black institutions are being able to build their own subsets of data that focus largely on African American communities. And that's very important moving forward, because if you truly think about it, let's take a field like psychology, as deep as it is, and you'll learn about Freud, and you'll learn about, who else is popular in psychology?
Carl Jung and Jung. Shout out to Professor Fernandez.
But you learn about all of these different thoughts and theories, and even in philosophy, but you never really learn from it from a perspective or the auspice of black thought, or you never learn about how it affects the black community. So when you take white data, and I don't mean to call it white data, but when you take data that's been largely collected from white people, and you use white definitions, and you use, white subsets, and you use white history to then define and support and build upon other white data, and then you try to apply it to black people, it's like you're taking a square peg and trying to jam it into a round hole. And I think that's where HBCUs become most valuable in 2018 and moving on.
In their research and their research?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It has to start there, because you now have to then focus on, we're behind the 8 ball in studying us. You know, there's no class called Black Psychology, but there probably should be, because the data is not going to be the same. How we're raised culturally and how we're influenced culturally is going to be different.
You're right.
And I think that's where the value of taking an African studies class in, at I don't know.
FIU?
I was going to say Schenectady, New York.
Nah.
I'm trying to pick the white Death Valley, South Carolina. Is going to be a lot different than taking one in Tallahassee, taking one in DC, taking one in some rural backwoods, place where one of these HBCUs exists, because they're going to give it to you with a completely different perspective and a completely different vantage points based on data that only they have. Because newsflash, the University of Alabama is not collecting their data from black people.
Preach, my brother. Preach.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, but I do think, and funny, that kind of segues into what we were talking about, but the relevance and necessity for the HBCU in today's America. And I think that's where it largely is. It's always been academic, or at least it should have always been academic, but I think that's where it largely lies. I think that when it comes to studying black people, we're largely left to decipher and understand and do the cognitive footwork on our issues on our own, without any data, without any understanding, or we're trying to misapply, data that's been largely collected over hundreds of years from people that don't look like us, and we're trying to superimpose it onto ourselves. And I think that's a big problem. HBCUs, especially ones that have now shifted from the college track of education to a university track, research track, and are, more and more master's programs, at least at the top HBCUs, are starting to come up now. And it's important for those institutions to continue to build thoughtful and meaningful and engaging black curriculum, I should say, around black ideas and black understanding, so that when our children do go to these institutions of higher learning, they can be able to not just decipher white data that they get from the PWIs and that largely dominates most of the peer-reviewed work out there, but they're also able to understand what it is that we go through on a more personal and a more intimate level that they wouldn't get anywhere else.
So it's not just educational at the HBCUs. There's a lot of other areas in black society as a whole, or in the black diaspora, that HBCUs hold up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all educational. Even, talking about the social aspects of it and just, socializing agents. That's still educational. You might not get a grade for it, but you're learning, right? So it still becomes very important. And, I wasn't going to go here, but we going to go here. Actually, I was going to go here. Just looking for the right time. It also becomes important because of the foolishness that we saw last year when the HBCU presidents were invited to the White House for that wonderful photo opportunity with the 45th president of the United States. And as someone who only attended an HBCU for law school, even still, I was very frustrated. And by the way, our university president, our law school president was not in that picture. Thank God for that. Dean Shelley Broderick was also not in that picture. Thank God for that.
Did you shout out Shelley Broderick?
Oh yeah. By the way, I believe she just retired actually.
Retirement.
Yeah, man. Hey, shout out. She's always been on the front lines. But oh, absolutely. Yeah, there you go. But also it's so funny. Even look, she's a white woman. She is a white woman, and even she knew she had no business being at that meeting. So why were those other 50 other HBCU presidents and, you know, people who sent, you know, proxies in their place, you know, why were they there? You know, and I mean, we know why they were there, but we're not going to get into that, you know, and, you know, and it's largely because they were put into a corner by an institution that is largely, you know, poo-pooed, we're going to use that word, largely crapped on on HBCUs. So now they have to go scrounging for opportunities, and by opportunities I do mean money, to survive, and to keep their, you know, and to keep their program funded and to keep their university funded. And that's kind of the corner that they were pushed into, and that's why a lot of them were there for that photo opportunity. And of course, some of them just wanted to be there because it's the White House and they get to meet the president, and they get to always say that they met the president, right?
Yeah, and then you got to go to the White House. I've
been to the White House.
It ain't that serious.
Look. With all due respect to the White House, it should tell you something that the president of the United States, the current president, doesn't want to even spend his weekend there.
They just gotta go toilet though.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, they didn't get a back go pay, or they gotta go toilet.
Look, I mean, if that's his claim to fame, and it can keep it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't do anything with the gold toilet except for, and I can't say that on the. Can't say that. Kid, we might have kids watching. We
want to have kids watching. You know what I'm saying?
they might learn a thing or two.
There you go.
But that was a very interesting week, if you will, especially for Black Twitter, just roasting the hell out of these university presidents for showing up to the White House at the under the guidance and under the thoughtful hand of one Omarosa, of all people, right?
Different topic, different day.
Which we won't even get into, but that's neither here nor there.
No.
But you know, because after all, you know, she did give Trump the black vote, whatever that means. Not this black vote, not anyone else's black vote, but she says she delivered the black vote to him. But that's neither here nor there. Touche. Shout out to Gifted Hands. Hashtag
Gifted Hands.
Hashtag Gifted Hands. So you know.
No, shout out to Cuba Gooding playing Ben Carson. I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. Shout out to Cuba Gooding.
Cuba played Ben Carson and O.J. Simpson.
Dog, play if you want to.
Man.
And let me tell you,
fun
fact. You remember that show on Nickelodeon, Omar Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
That's his brother. I learned that recently-ish.
Yeah, his far less talented brother. Yeah.
Don't say that, man. What was it? Wild and Crazy Kids.
Omar was he's a child star, and he was like 30 doing that. And
when was Cuba eating? I'm just saying, don't be sleeping on Omar like that.
Cuba's still eating, man.
He's still eating,
which is disturbing. I don't know how he's still eating, but he still is apparently.
Yeah, he eating and crapping in probably golden toilets.
In golden toilets, right?
But, look, let me tell you.
But yeah, man, that experience alone, you know, drawed the ear of many people, especially the entire African American community, especially the woke African American community that understands that, you know, showing up there wasn't going to change anything for, you know, Black people, not in the now, not in the interim, not in the future. And of course, they now understand a year plus later that it largely hadn't. And I think that those presidents that went there and that had the nerve to smile in that picture have to now refocus their agenda, because now they've been there, they've seen the other side, and and even though they were wrong, and you know, I don't begrudge anybody for being wrong. We've all been wrong about something or someone, and even if they knew that against their better judgment they shouldn't have been there, they have a chance to atone for that, not just with the Black community, but most importantly with their university, because you're supposed to now go out there and raise money for your school, because that's really what a university president does. You're a glorified fundraiser. You got to go out there and get the cash now for your school, for your university. But most importantly, you got to try and convince the parents of these Black children that they need to send their kid to your school above a PWI. And how do you do that when you're taking a picture next to the guy who has absolutely no regard for you or your community? And I think it can be a teachable moment for everybody involved if they go about it the right way. Just, hey, look, you know, we did our due diligence. At the end of the day, we're going to swallow our pride and we're going to try to do what we can for the betterment of our university. We're going to put our HBCU first. and use it as an opportunity to show that, one, it was all a stunt, and then use it as an opportunity to, two, that, and it's a word that you used quite a bit in our first episode, use it as an opportunity to galvanize, to bring everybody together,
Hashtag galvanize.
to hashtag galvanize, to get people to attend the HBCU, not only on the premise that, oh, you know, we teach black students, but that you saw it for your own eyes. And that for those, you know, 5 to 7 days that we were in the news stream, you saw the lack of regard that the Oval Office had for our institutions and for your kids. Because at the end of the day, it's your kids that are attending these HBCUs. Your beautiful black children. You got to use it. You have to use it. And I hope that if HBCUs can use it as a rallying point to re-examine their place in today's world, in today's society, upgrade the curriculum. I saw Google is working with Howard University. In my opinion, that's a game changer, because now you're going to have Howard being a pipeline into Google. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Howard, I mean, and not to big up Howard, but Howard is already a pipeline into, you know, major law firms and into other industries, just the same way FAM might be a pipeline into, you know, pharmaceuticals and agriculture, for that matter.
Okay,
you know,
black people in agriculture. I'm just saying though. Stick to pharmacy.
Well, look, now it's popular now.
You're right here. Yeah,
you know, now it's hot. Now it's hot. Yeah,
and
now we're not getting arrested for it, right? You know.
Yeah.
but
that's a whole different topic.
That's a whole other topic for another day.
So, okay.
But yeah, I think definitely, you know, if we continue to cultivate those relationships and go beyond the Oval Office, because we're not getting the help from there. And, you know, some people might disagree with this, but, you know, at the end of the day, we didn't necessarily get the help they necessarily didn't get the help they thought they were going to get during the previous administration. And, you know, I mean, it is what it is, you know. But at the end of the day, take this as an opportunity. It's not just a learning moment, but take this as an opportunity to now foster and to now create and cultivate those relationships on your own, and get your students in front of those people, and get your students in front of Elon Musk, in front of the tech giants, and in front of I was gonna say Steve Ballmer at Microsoft, in front of Bill Gates. You know, that's what it's gonna ultimately take to reestablish the HBCUs, is by building those pipelines to these larger institutions. And if they can, I think they'll thrive. I really do.
Okay. I mean, I can say it better myself. I mean, to be quite honest, and I definitely learned a lot hearing you talk about HBCUs and their place and its deeper meaning other than just being, you know, black schools. So, I mean, I really appreciate the insight that I now realized you had. So I mean, I'm the odd man out on this. So I definitely, you know, I defer, and I respect it, and I definitely acknowledge it. And then a lot of your points are valid. So
I'll end it on this. It wasn't that long ago. It was in the last 5 or 6 years that, and I actually had I think we were talking about this earlier, but I actually had a law school professor that is actually one of counsel to the HBCUs. Particularly the ones in the in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia region, in the DMV, who were bringing suit against PWIs for stealing their curriculum in order to take their students. And I think that in and of itself is indicative of the challenges that HBCUs face, but it's also indicative of the scope, of the magnitude, and of the importance of the curriculum being offered by the HBCUs in the first place. Why does the University of Maryland, an institution that has at its fingertips a Division I basketball team, a Division I football team, all its tremendous alum, its millions of dollars in boosters and in, you know, board of regents, all these great things, why do they still feel the need to lure, because that's really the word, is they're luring black students away from the HBCUs in their region by stealing their curriculum. And it's because at the end of the day, they understand the value and the importance of having the full-time enrollments, the FTEs, as some, educators and academicians know. They understand the importance of having that number high, especially for black and brown students. That's where all of your quote-unquote free money is going to come from. You get compensated from the federal government based on that number. And at the end of the day, based off it, that you know what? We're gonna drop that African studies class. We're gonna hire a white professor. We're gonna dress him in kente cloth, and he gonna come and he gonna put up his fist like this, and he's going to spearhead our African studies department, and we're going to get all those black students to go, and they're going to learn African studies from Brad. And
why Brad gotta be in this, man? Brad ain't do nothing.
Brad from accounting, that
Brad, some guy named Brad in Daquan's like, what I do here?
Like, how did I get into this?
Yeah, we're gonna get that.
Leave me out of this,
Keep my name out your mouth.
But it's the truth, man. And now Brad is responsible for teaching these black students at a white university African studies, when not only did they not have an African Studies department just years prior, but they could have had a much better and a much higher quality matriculation process in the African Studies concentration had they gone to, since we're using the regions, had they gone to Morgan State, had they gone to Bowie, had they gone to Howard, had they gone to Hampton, or had they gone to FLOMO, had they gone to FAM, any other institution that's not a predominantly white institution. And I think that while it's very upsetting to know that, while it's very upsetting to know and understand and realize that that's happening, that PWIs, predominantly white institutions, are stealing curriculum from black colleges and universities to get black students, I think it also is a great sense of pride for black institutions and black people that they know and understand the value of taking you from that institution. As far as I'm concerned, that's all the more reason why we need to be there.
Preach. Oh,
that's all I got for you.
Well, that's our time. That's pretty much like, hey, close it out. I mean, hit the 3-point end of the game. Just walk off the court.
The walk off. You already
40.
know.
MT from 40. I'm just.
Yeah, we read a little long today. Hey, Mark, dog. On our next show, we're going to discuss black love. Black love.
Ooh, we were gonna say that this episode's a Mike Intensive show. You went to HBCU. Black love. Married guy here. We're gonna talk about black love.
About black love.
I would sit there going hours in. I don't know, but
this is gonna be deep, man. It's gonna be legit, man. We're gonna have a great discussion.
This might be even a part 1. I don't know.
Well, hey, look, there's always more to come now. There's always, and that's why you have to stay in tune. You have to stay tuned. You have to stay with us. All right. So with that being said,
watch, subscribe, share. We appreciate the people who watched our first couple of episodes. We appreciate you guys. Please keep watching.
Absolutely.
If there's any type of content you want to see us take care of, please let us know.
Keep sending those emails. We appreciate them. We read all of them, and we're going to reply to each and every one of them. I promise you. Thank you for your love and your support, and most importantly, your words of encouragement. We appreciate that you appreciate this platform, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising that we got the response that we did do, and we really do appreciate it. And it helps us and keeps motivating us to come here and keep doing this.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another edition of the M&M Podcast. Once again, like Mark said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening. I'm Mike.
And I'm Mark.
Peace.
Peace out.